My name is Kimberly Stewart-Lucas, also known as Warrior Mama, and this is the first episode of Dish with the Doulas and Midwives Too. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much for joining us on Dish with the Doulas. Again, my name is Kimberly Stewart-Lucas, also known as Warrior Mama, and I'm really excited to be here today to present resources and support of all things birth, labor and delivery, breastfeeding, parenting. Those are things that I'm passionate about. Those are things that are purposeful to me, and that's the point of this show, Dish with the Doulas. It's to provide resources, information that's out there, but you may not know where to look for it. The first couple of episodes will be just about me and my philosophy, my Warrior Mama philosophy, about my experience, what led me to be in this point, doing this kind of show. And then we'll be joined in future shows with doulas, with midwives, people that are part of my birth community. Amazing, I call them birth queens, that have either been a part of my birth experience, or people that I've met along the way in some of the events that I do in my birth advocacy work. First, for those that are not familiar with what a doula is, that's D-O-U-L-A, the definition of a doula is a woman that assists another woman, particularly in pregnancy and childbirth and postpartum experiences. And I was fortunate enough to have many doulas. They may not be certified doulas, but they were doulas in my life and the three experiences I had in my childbirths. And I believe that everyone who is considering giving birth, getting pregnant and giving birth, should have a doula. I think that should just come along with the territory because there are so many things that are going on and there's such a need for support, particularly among women of color. This particular episode will kick off during Black Maternal Health Week. And I think it's very important to raise awareness about what's going on with the disparities of the mortality rate, the maternal mortality rate of Black women in particular. It is extremely higher than others, and that is due to a lack of resources, a lack of just even support, and a lack of even believing women when they say they need the resources. So those are some of the things that I want to do with this show, is to provide the resources that people need and to also let people know that there's another way to approach birth. A lot of what you may know about birth may not be so true. And there's a reason for that. Birth is a business. And there are all kinds of experiences out there, whether it's in the hospital, birth centers, at home, or wherever you may give birth. But one of the things that Warrior Mama is my philosophy is to dispel myths and fears about all things birth. There's so much information out there, unfortunately, that really scares people. And Warrior Mamas, I'm here to support the birth that you want, what you envision, the environment, everything that you want, that is possible. And I have three experiences in my life that have told me and taught me that's possible. Now, I'm not a certified doula. I'm a health practitioner, or not a health practitioner, but I have had 3 unassisted home births. And I think that qualifies me to know a little bit something about home birth and pregnancy and labor and delivery. So I'm also an event planner. So I'm bringing together my love of sharing resources, birth, and just providing people with extraordinary experiences that they want in their life. Again, my experience into the Warrior Mama world was through my children, our children. My husband and I have 3 children. Solomon's 15, Sarah is 12, and Sophia is 7. And all of them were classified as unassisted home birth parents, which means that we gave birth at home. There was not a medical practitioner there, and all 3 were successful. Now, our first birth was not a planned home birth. That's my son Solomon. That's 15 years ago. And we planned to do a hospital birth, We actually went to a wonderful facility here, and we went on tour, and everything was beautiful. And my husband and I looked at each other. We did not say a word. And I think in that moment is when we knew we didn't want to do and have birth there. But we really didn't talk about it, right? So we just knew that it wasn't going to be there. Fast forward to about the time that I was my estimated due date, and we're celebrating the anniversary of the tattoo shop that my husband and his business partner and my brother-in-law now owned. And we were celebrating, we were dancing, we were having a good time. And this being my first experience in childbirth, I really didn't know what a contraction or what labor would feel like because I never experienced it. So, and there are different pieces I'm going to jump around because there's so many parts of this that are just amazing that came together. But that's when the experience of Warrior Mama started. We'll go back. So there's a book called Birthing from Within. That's by Pam England. It's the number one resource that I suggest for people because it approaches birth as a rites of passage. It's not a medical event. It's not a sickness. It's not an illness. It's something that you go through, and it's an empowering experience. And I was at a local grocery store, actually 7 on, then Little 5 Points, and was going to buy What to Expect When Expecting. And a friend of mine, actually I bought it, and a friend of mine ran to the parking lot, said, go return that book. There's a book called Birthing from Within. And she was a mother, and so I kind of took her advice because she knew what she was talking about. And I went and made the switch, and it was the best thing ever. It changed the trajectory of our experience and really of my life. Birthing from Within, that book led me to the classes, Birthing and Awareness. A friend of ours who was also expecting suggested these classes called Birthing and Awareness. They were taught by Teresa Howard, who's a labor of love. And these classes that we took, my husband and I took, were just reminders of what we already have in us, the resources that we have, but activating that, okay? And it was essential. And so many things we learned in that class about the gifts that we have, the power within, connecting with your partner, and connecting with your inner voice, trusting your body, trusting your baby, and trusting birth. That is just the philosophy of what I follow. There's that inner voice that we all have, pregnant or not, that we know it's our first mind, and it's trusting that voice, trusting your body, trusting that your body was designed to do certain things that maybe you don't consciously tell it to do, but it's going to do anyway. And then trusting your baby. I just think it's a miracle. They talk about the miracle of birth. It is, because when you're asleep and you're carrying a baby, you're still creating. And you're not telling, oh, eyelashes grow now, oh, fingernails grow now, but it's happening. And so your baby there's an awareness, I believe, there of what needs to happen next. So it's trusting your body, trusting your baby, and trusting birth. To me, that is the entire philosophy. So we had these classes, Birthing and Awareness. And then from there, again, fast forward to my labor. When we celebrated our 8th anniversary at the tattoo shop, the same friend that I ran into in the parking lot came to that party. And I was having, I call them sensations, contractions is the word, but people's perception of pain is different, so I just use the word sensations. And so I'm in the back office at the shop, and she peeks her head around the corner and says, hey, don't worry about timing your contractions, just have a good time tonight. And again, I trust this woman because she led me to Birthing from Within, which led me to the classes. So I'm trusting the guidance that she's giving me. So I'm not timing contractions. I'm trusting the process. And I continue on celebrating. We're outside and we're in the parking lot dancing and having it, but I'm feeling stronger sensations. And there's an amazing picture that I've shared on my page, Warrior Mamas, which is on IG, which I call my doulas because, again, these women may not have been certified doulas, but there were 3 women that surrounded me. One was rubbing my shoulders, one was rubbing my hands, and one was rubbing my feet. And they were preparing me for what I thought was early labor, but I was actually in active labor. Another good friend of mine who's a doula now, Christy, really wanted us to go home. She saw how things were progressing and prepared the car for us to go home. Again, I wasn't thinking it's time to go to the hospital. We actually passed the hospital on my way home, on our way home. And because I thought I was in active or beginning labor, I wanted to take a bath because I thought maybe that'll slow the contractions down and I'll get some sleep and then we'll have a baby in the morning. Again, unbeknownst to me, I was in active labor. So I took a bath and 10 minutes, maybe not even 10 minutes after I got out the bath and laid on the bed, I started pushing. And it was miraculous. It was maybe 3 pushes and Solomon was out. And the paramedics came about 5 or 10 minutes later. I was then transported to the hospital that we did the tour. So we ended up at that hospital, and that's where I delivered the placenta. But everything had been so natural and primal for me in delivering my son that when I got to the hospital to deliver the placenta, my midwife said push, and I'm thinking, okay, I don't really do that on demand, but let's do it. It was great care that I received at the hospital. My insurance paid for it, so it was like, why not? And then we were at home in a couple of days. Everything went so well for that experience that we said, next time we do this, we're going to do everything at home. And then fast forward to Sarah's birth. That is our second child. And we wanted to do a home birth, or not a home birth, a water birth. And so we were connected with our midwife, Tolewa, who provided the best health care I've ever received in my life. Tolewa would, during our pregnancy, would come to the house. She would do all the tests that we needed to do as far as my blood pressure, as far as urine tests, as far as listening to the baby's heartbeat on the Doppler. But she would spend time with us. She would talk to us about what's going on with us individually. She would talk to us about what's going on as a couple, what the energy is in the house, because that affects everything. I always tell parents that the energy and the connection that you have with your partner, your spouse, your husband, whomever, that greatly affects your labor. So if there's trust, if there's faith, if there's great communication, awesome, it will play itself out in the labor. If there's not trust, if there's not communication, if there's not the space to allow for vulnerability, that will play itself out in the labor. So I always suggest that you get it right, work on it, because it benefits you in the long run. And just in general, it benefits you, but it definitely will benefit you in the process of giving birth. But Tolewa just provided, just immaculate care for us. And depending on your insurance, when you're at a practitioner or the hospital, you may be seen for 20 minutes, you may be seen for 15, or you may be seen for 5. But we were seen for at least an hour or so. She would always give us material to read or something to watch when she left. And then we would meet however necessary. But that was just the foundation for our next birth, for Sarah's birth. Again, we wanted to be a water birth. We rented the pool, had it in our bedroom. And our labor for that didn't go exactly as planned. And that's the thing, too, about birth, is that you have to be flexible. You have to surrender. And sometimes things may not go according to plan. I'm an event planner, so I always have a plan A, plan B, plan C. Sometimes you have to activate plan I, because it just may be a little different. But you have to go with it, and you can't judge it, and you can't, because that begins to shut things down. And so that experience was, again, an amazing experience. Vision board, that's something that I'll talk about a little bit later. These were part of our formula in our births. Going back to birthing and awareness classes, we did vision boards, birth vision boards. And that basically is taking a written plan, which some physicians may ask you to do. It's all the things that you want and don't want in your labor and your delivery, and making a visual representation of that. So it's like a vision board like you would do around New Year's, of all the things that you want with your health and your finance and relationships. But this is specifically about the birth that you want, the postpartum experience, about the breastfeeding and so forth. And we had a vision board for our first birth. Everything on that board we got, but we got in a different way. I had my lavender. It was in the bathtub when I took the bath when I got home. That sped my labor up more. I had the people that I I wanted in the hospital. They were there at that celebration. I didn't have anyone introducing medication to me because I was at home. I had all of the things that were on that board. Even the focal point was my grandmother's picture. And the board was in the car, but my grandmother's picture was in the frame in the bedroom where I gave birth. And I believe I did use that as a focal point as part of my, my labor in pushing. So these vision boards, and we did another one for Sarah, they had everything that we wanted. And I used that vision board as part of my labor. So that day that I gave birth to Sarah, Toliwa and another friend of mine, Rajaniya, came to visit. And Rajaniya was very instrumental in, I think, kickstarting my labors because she did massage therapy on me with my first before the party. And then she rubbed my feet a little bit, a little reflexology in there for Sarah. And then they went to the store because they were like, you're good. Toliwa checked me and everything was good. And then I started feeling those sensations. And I got on the phone with Dan because he was watching Solomon, his godfather. The board was in the room, the vision board. And I actually started reciting things off the vision board. And I was on the phone with Dan and saying some of the things to him. And he was like, okay, all right, just breathe. However many minutes later, maybe 20 minutes later, Kenyatta came home. That's my husband, Lord Yada. And Christy came. And that's when it was time. It was time to activate. And that experience, I can say that I actually felt collective womanhood, if that makes sense. If you guys have seen the movie Avatar, and there's a scene where they're all praying around the Awa tree, and they're all in unison in a chant. I experienced that with Sarah's birth. Open was my key word. Open is a very powerful word. You're telling yourself to be open. Even when you say the word open, your lips are open. Your breath is different. You're taking in your breath differently. Also, because we're talking about birth, and there's a lot of physical things that we'll talk about, but open, when your lips are open, other things in your body are open. So when you pierce your lips, similar to kind of a tattoo, when you're not breathing properly and you're tense, you'll feel things a little deeper. But when you're breathing deeply and you're aware of your breath, and it will relax your muscles and you won't feel things as much. And that was the word that Christy and I co-chanted, was open. And she sang it as I was saying it. And it opened up a portal of just all the ancestors and all the women who were ever in my life and who were rooting for me. I felt their presence. I felt the presence of my ancestors. I felt the presence of other women giving birth in that moment and those that were going to give birth. And it just opened something. And according to Christy, I was on, well, again, we were trying for a water birth. My water broke on the bed. And unfortunately, it was the way it happened. Kenyatta didn't feel as comfortable to lift me off the bed and into the water. And in that moment, that's when things changed. And again, there was no judgment. There was no, oh, well, this is what I want. I trusted him in how he felt. And so I knew the position that I'm used to being, and that's on all fours to give birth. And Christy says that I instructed her to put her hands out to catch Sarah, which she did. And then we got into the water after I gave birth. And it was the most heavenly thing in the world. There's a beautiful picture that Rajaniya had taken of us, and of Kenyatta and myself and Sarah in the water. And also in the picture, you'll see there is a bowl. With this birth, we did not want to detach the umbilical cord and the placenta until it stopped naturally pulsating. And so there's a bowl that's also accompanying us in the water. And we'll talk about that a little bit more too, about delayed clamping. And some people do lotus births, which is allowing the placenta to stay attached and fall off naturally. You have to cure. There's a whole process in doing that. And we can talk about that later. We will talk about that later in future episodes. But it was just another beautiful experience where, again, we had a vision for a home birth. We surrounded ourselves with resources and people that supported our vision, and then the outcome came out 1,000 times better than we intended. And then we'll fast forward to our third birth, which is Sophia. Again, Toliwa was very instrumental. She was our midwife. And at this point, again, we're considered unassisted home birth parents. So Toliwa is the kind of practitioner that will be as involved as she needs to be or as hands-off as she needs to be. She recognizes the needs of people and she plugs in as necessary. That's why, again, just so amazing, and it's the best healthcare I've received. With Sophia's birth, again, I was just very aware of some of my transitions and just some things that were going on. All of my birth stories I've written, and I'll provide links of those stories. And it's not just for people to read, but it's also for my children to document how they came into this world. And so all these details are in my birth stories. But Sophia's birth story starts with an unsung, Bobby Womack's Unsung. We were watching it, and it went off, and it was almost like Sophia waited for me to see the whole episode before she started to move. And Kenyatta was asleep, and Sophia was ready. And so I labored on my labor ball, an exercise ball, which is an awesome tool to use in labor and delivery. And just feeling the sensations, rocking back and forth, using that labor ball, that exercise ball, how it can be used to help manage. It's a pain management technique, I think, is really good to use. And it was time to, I know my transition. So as sensations got stronger, I moved things to the bathroom. I woke Kenyatta up when it was time to call the people that we had planned to be at the house. I told them, hey, give them a call my midwife, call Christy, call Brother Reginald. Those are the people we asked to be at the birth. With Sophia, we called her Baby Love because we did not choose to know the sex of the baby. And that was a big lesson for me in surrendering. I remember I called a friend, I think it was Teresa, and asked her about where I can get a sonogram done. And she said, for what? Is there an emergency? Are you something going on? And I said, no, just kind of. She said, well, do you have to know? I was like, no, I don't have to know the birth. I mean, she's like, what does that do? She really challenged me to know, and not to say that it's wrong to know the sex of your baby or to do gender reveal parties, but sometimes things change. And so you may be thinking you see a boy and it's a girl, or vice versa. So that was a lesson for me in surrendering and just kind of having faith that I'm going to love the baby, boy or girl. And we called her Baby Love at the time. And so, again, back to the labor, I moved to the bathroom, which is where we normally have relaxed muscles. I had a mantra. It was Love is All Around. It was a song that I'd heard a few months ago on YouTube. Rochelle Farrell and Letticy and Rasan Patterson and Layla Hathaway. It was a live performance. And that song became my birth song. It's called Love is All Around. And when you hear the song and even say those words, love is all around, you begin to feel the love around you. And so that was one of my chants for that birth. Love is all around. And Kenyatta came into the bathroom and he was with me and he was saying, co-chanting with me. And there's a transition that I have. Transition is when you go from beginning labor to active labor. For me, vomiting was my transition. I experienced it in my first and my second births. So when it happened the third time, I knew, okay, I'm going to start pushing after this. And so that happened. And all I remember is getting on all fours in front of the toilet. And I saw Toliwa swoop in and put the mat down. And she stepped out. Kenyatta got in the bathtub. And maybe 2 pushes, Sophia was out. And I remember saying, oh my gosh, she's here. Because I could see it was a girl. She's here. Is she really here? And Sophia came out clean as a whistle. Toliwa didn't have to clean her ears, her nose, her mouth. She was ready. And the first picture we have of Sophia, actually, Kenyatta's holding her. You can see the umbilical cord at the bottom. And I'm actually taking the picture a few minutes after giving birth. And that's the first picture of her. And she looks so much like my mother-in-law, Kenyatta's mom, who had transitioned a few months before. Jenny passed. I think I was maybe 6 or 7 months pregnant. And I just, looking at that picture now, I just see her face on Sophia's. And there are lots of pictures that I see Jenny. But again, it was a powerful experience. Toliwa with our placenta. Again, we had a delayed clamping, so that basically is allowing all the nutrients, everything that was giving life to the baby in the womb, to allow to transfer to the baby. And she was connected for about maybe 3 or 4 hours. But Toliwa also did a placenta reading. And again, these are all things that we'll talk about in Dish with the Doulas because it's just so much information. But she did a reading for us, which was very telling about the experience of my pregnancy. It was very telling about my parents' involvement in my pregnancy. Just very intuitive, and that was a blessing for us. And then also one thing that we did with Sarah's birth and with Sophia's birth is we were able to keep the placenta. I was able to take the placenta, which was amazing for me because it helped regulate my hormones. It helped regulate even the production of breast milk was more plentiful. With Sarah's birth, we had the placenta, prepared it, and I was able to, actually Toliwa I was able to encapsulate it, and that's another thing we'll talk about, encapsulation. But it's so beneficial for the baby, for the mother, and even placentas can be put in grain alcohol to be used 10, 15 years later. They can be preserved for my girls. So again, that's their coating. That's what nourished them in the womb. That's goodness for them that they can now take when they're in puberty. And we are actually knocking on that door for Sarah. So it's something that's not only, again, beneficial for the mother, but it's beneficial in later years when it's stored properly for the children. We weren't able to do that with Solomon. But when we learned, when you know better, you do better. And that's what we did. And, I've been a part of the encapsulation process for others because it's just so beneficial. I share all of these stories to say that's where Warrior Mama was created. I used to think I wanted to be a doula, but now I'm clear that my lane is birth education. Because of my schedule and because of just what I do in my life, being a doula is not necessarily my desired path, but definitely birth education and sharing resources with people and connecting them to the doulas and the midwives is the work that I do. And that's the point of this show, is to make those connections. So future guests will be midwives, my midwife, doulas that were part of my births, chiropractors, mental health practitioners. We'll even do some episodes with dads because I think they are a critical role and support in this process. And a lot of times they get lost in the sauce. Yes, the mother is the vessel that's growing and making the way for the baby. But that support, that main support, that's a very essential part of the mother's wealth and well-being and health. So I think even talking to dads and talking to partners is important about how they can assist, where they are mentally and emotionally and spiritually, and how they can plug in and be a support to their partner. And we'll also discuss other doulas. There are doulas that are, now primarily we'll be talking about birth and pregnancy, but there are death doulas that are part of the transition, holding the space for the person that's transitioning and holding the space for the family that may be present. There are abortion doulas that are critical in the process, whether prior to, during, or after. There are postpartum doulas. There are lactation, breastfeeding doulas. Again, doulas are women that assist other women. And there are all kinds of experiences where we need support and we need assistance. So that is what Warrior Mamas is about. That is what Dish with the Doulas and Midwives Too is about. And I'm grateful for this opportunity to be here to share all these, 15 years of my experience and the things that I love to talk about. It's just an honor and all really a privilege to be able to experience what I have, but also to share it. Sometimes people go through things and it's for them, it's their testimony, but I'm very certain that the 3 experiences that I've had in birth are not just for me and have been very empowering for me, but it's also to share with other women and other families. It's the formula of having a vision of what you want in your life. And again, surrounding yourself with resources, with affirmations, with people that uplift and support the vision. And then the vision manifesting way bigger and more magnificent than what you probably expected. That is a formula for really life. That's the law of attraction. That's the secret. I really believe it. It's what you call into from the universe, what you pray for, what you put in, what you get out. And so that is the purpose of this platform. And I'm grateful to be here and to be able to share all of these resources with you. I hope that you stay tuned for future episodes. Ask questions. If you need resources, if you need suggestions on books, on doulas, on organizations, on midwives, on breastfeeding, on parenting, time management, because things change as your children's needs change as well, just contact us. There'll be information about how to contact us on Instagram, on Facebook, and YouTube, where you can find all of the videos that we'll be acquiring over the next few months. So again, thank you for joining us for the first episode. I'm so excited. Thank you to Dan. Thank you to Josephine. Thank you to Cinemaker for allowing me to be here to do Dish with the Doulas and Midwives Too. Thank you.